But there's one area where government at the state and local level and here in Congress can make things a little easier, a little more sensible. That's dealing with our failed policy of marijuana prohibition.
Marijuana prohibition is an utter failure. People are finally starting to realize this. And as of just last month, 58% of the American public feel that marijuana should be taxed and regulated similarly to alcohol.
The cost of the drug war is too damn high. Since 1970, we've spent roughly $545 billion on an unsuccessful policy to curb drug use. Prohibition has not solved the drug problem. It has instead led to a dangerous black market run by cartels and criminals. It costs billions of dollars to imprison an ever larger population of drug users and sellers. To summarize a 2003 Human Rights Watch report, perhaps the single greatest force behind the growth of the prison population has been the national war on drugs. The number of incarcerated drug offenders has increased 12-fold since 1980. In 2000, 22% of those in federal and state prisons were convicted on drugs.
I think that arresting 750,000 people a year for marijuana possession is a terrible thing to do. I think giving millions of Americans a criminal record for simply having a joint is a ridiculous thing to do. I think having this business be in the hands of organized criminals in Mexico and the U.S. and other countries makes no sense. I think that foregoing the tax revenue while putting it in the hands of criminals makes no sense. I think having people growing it illegally in national forests makes no sense. I think that having people be disqualified from access for student scholarships and public housing and other assistance because they once had a marijuana conviction makes no sense. I think people who have been legal immigrants in this country for 20 years getting kicked out because they get popped twice for possessing a joint is inhumane and cruel. So the reason I'm doing this is not because I think legalizing marijuana is such a great thing. It's because keeping it illegal is an atrocious thing. And whatever risks there are to making marijuana legal are less than the risks and the harms of continuing with the failed prohibition policy.
When you prohibit something, it doesn't mean it's going away. It just means it's going to be run by criminals now because it's not above board. Well, the criminals eventually get so wealthy they become more powerful than the government, which is a great deal of what's happening in Mexico right now. They have more guns, I might add. They get them from the U.S. because it's illegal to own a gun in Mexico. They got the guns, they got the power, they got the money. By decriminalizing, they're out of business. They have to find something new. It's not rocket scientists, Geraldo. It just takes politicians with some courage. Politicians who aren't afraid of, who aren't worried about jeopardizing their reelection and simply do what's right. Decriminalization is the way out of this.
Just in the first day, Colorado marijuana sales made well over $1 million. 2014 will see a $571 million profit on legal marijuana sales. The taxes are estimated to bring $67 million per year initially. 27.5 will go to school construction and $6 million will go to local governments. That leaves $33.5 million for the state to regulate stores and fund marijuana education and treatment programs.
November 5th, voters in 4 U.S. cities decided to legalize recreational marijuana use. In the Michigan cities of Lansing, Jackson, and Ferndale, it will now be legal for anyone 21 years or older to possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana on private property. In Portland, Maine, it will be legal to possess up to 2.5 ounces. And of course, in the Centennial State of Colorado, where recreational marijuana use has been legal for a year now, they voted in a new measure that levies a 15% excise tax and a 10% sales tax on the product. With these cities amending their marijuana laws following the lead of Colorado and Washington State, one has to wonder which U.S. cities and states will follow. And what does this mean for the future of the so-called war on drugs? Recently came out, it found that in 2010, there was 1 marijuana arrest every 37 seconds, and states spent a combined over $3.6 billion enforcing marijuana possession laws. Will there be any savings to taxpayers in the cities where they have voted to legalize marijuana from cutting back policing and prison costs and things like that?
Well, there should be. It depends on how that city manages this new policy. But it's definitely going to be a savings for law enforcement. They'll be able to redirect their limited sources to crimes of violence, which is a benefit for the citizens, obviously. So they'll be able to focus on murder, rape, robbery, domestic violence. And I'll tell you, from my experience, just about every city can use more attention in those areas. Over the past few decades, we've actually been solving less violent crime across the country than what we have in the past. And you'd think that would be better with, you think we would do better with more technology today, but so this will free up a ton of resources for law enforcement to refocus their priorities, yeah.